Oi oi, alright, how's it going? I'm Grant, you're you. This is Doodle Review. If you're new here, reviewing new albums is what I do. We're a channel rooted in guitar-based music, but pretty much have an unquestionable thirst for anything that sounds good, and today's album very much fits that bill. We're talking about Brittany Howard's latest What Now. Brittany Howard is an Alabama-born singer, songwriter and multi-instrumentalist who rose to prominence in the mid-2010s with the band Alabama Shakes, in which Howard was both the lead guitarist and frontwoman. While ostensibly an old-school soul and R&B band, the Shakes also drew in a classic rock audience with a sound that would lean into bands like Cream and Creedence as much as Sly and the Family Stone or Marvin Gaye. Adding to that, Howard herself cut an iconic rock star figure at the front of the band, a commanding stage presence, many cape-adorned outfits, an electric teal Gibson SG nodding to Sister Rosetta Tharpe, and a voice that could summon Vikings or make your heart ache with soul. As primary songwriter for the band, Howard's ambition to widen the sonic net and push the boundaries of the Shakes' already fused genre set of R&B, rock and soul, I think was apparent as far back as their second album. Among the hooky soul power of the songs that immediately stuck with you on the 2015 sophomore release Sound and Colour were some pretty odd compositions like Gemini, or the ridiculously heavy and off-kilter bass of a track like Future People. While the experimental side to the band seemed to make no difference to their commercial performance, selling many tens of thousands of records and continuing a run of Grammy wins, Alabama Shakes would ultimately disband a couple of years after that album's release. It wasn't long though until we'd get to hear more from Howard, with 2019 bringing us the incredible solo album Jamie. Completely self-produced, this record very clearly demonstrated that the experimental edge we heard on that second Alabama Shakes album was not just a product of working with the talented producer Blake Mills, himself no slouch when it comes to experimentation in his own work, but it was in fact a vision driven by Howard herself. What Now, Howard's latest release and the follow-up to Jamie, arrives 5 years later, and although that gap is even longer than the one between Sound and Colour and that first solo album, there is one important stopgap over that period of waiting that in hindsight provided a lot more of a clue of where Howard would take her sound than fans may have realised at the time. Jamie Reimagined came out in 2021 and is exactly what it suggests, a complete deconstruction and reconstruction of the Jamie album experience. Although each song was tackled by a different artist, from Michael Kiwanuka to Childish Gambino and not Howard, I think this compilation's presentation, its sequencing and the curation of the collaborators themselves really speaks to the taste and vision of Brittany Howard. The fact that Howard was able to see that her compositions, which were already progressive and dynamic within the kind of neo-soul, neo-funk, lo-fi R&B realm that they were in, would return captivating remixes true to the spirit of her original intention, whether arriving in a house format, as per the Fred Again track, or an ice-cold dose of electro soul that we got from Little Dragon, and that she was open to that, showed that the artist and the audience where she could take herself moving forward. And take it there she has, and triumphantly so with What Now. What Now, to me, is a perfect combination of Brittany Howard's two prior releases as a solo artist. This album blends the artist's incredible ability to write timeless sounding melodies and chord progressions while applying a progressive and almost avant-garde production aesthetic. This creates a sound where everything feels fresh, cutting edge, and quite frankly thrilling, while also having this feeling like you're in safe hands, like these songs have been around forever. Earth Sign begins the album slightly more on the experimental, even ambient side, with these very live sounding drums creating this feeling of wide open space that a very impressionistic kind of piano just floats through. But for however unusual this might sound on one hand, instrumentally it could actually have come from the ambient neoclassical album Statues 2 by Spencer Zahn. But no matter how challenging you might even describe this as, Howard's lead vocals, repeating refrains and variations of I Can Feel It feel so grounding and so soulful it creates the ultimate counterpoint. This is the tone setter of the album. It introduces the listener to the concept early on that not only will What Now continue to fan the flames of the more abstract components of Jamie, but that it will take it further. As if to immediately, though, assuage fears that the record might completely disappear into navel gazing, our second track is the beautifully soothing soul of I Don't. Led by an electric piano with backup from bells and a beautifully supportive bass line that is adventurous but non-invasive, this song effortlessly touches the same soft cushiony part of the brain that Stay High did on the prior record. Structurally, the song's comfortingly conventional, but the rough and tough filtered, compressed and pushed drum sound and those guitars played so close you can hear the little harmonics of each pluck continue to add that little touch of the avant-garde, that little bit of strange that captures the imagination while the melody is busy cradling your heart. This is a feat that the production is constantly attempting throughout the entire record and almost always executing flawlessly. There are so many examples to pull from, but a few offhand are, the drums on Red Flags, the way that kick is super heavily filtered while the snare drum sounds like it's been unclipped. I don't know what the proper term is, but for those like me that aren't drummers, the snare sound on a drum is made by these thin wires that are pulled tight against the underside of the drum. It's what gives it that kind of harsh, crisp sound that rises above all the other parts of the kit. However, you can unclip that wire and give the snare this looser sound. It's deeper, yet still sounds distinct from the kick and the toms, and they've done this to the snare on Red Flags, but then it sounds like on top of that they've run the sound through a chorus and a delay, and it's just a perfect accompaniment to this super subtle, almost imperceptible bass drum. I think is a real masterstroke. The guitar on What Now is mind-blowingly cool. It's such a sick funk riff as it is, totally worthy of an artist like Prince, but I don't even think Prince got as technical with the sonic aspect of a guitar part like this. It's fuzzed out and wired out to a massive extent, but wrapped within it are all these weaving, clean rhythm and counterparts. It's fucking sick, to be honest. Compositionally and instrumentally as well, this song, What Now, the title track, is just on another level. It goes through several different movements in terms of what is coming in and dropping out and when. The keys come in with a different part at some point, adding a kind of mischievous tension building motif, while the bass is just gnawing away at the root notes, constantly hammering off and hammering on. It's incredible and a true highlight. I will say not absolutely everything here works for me. Another Day comes after a spoken word interlude about peacemaking and living in harmony, which is great, but this track, Another Day, it kind of continues this thread lyrically and comes off a bit like a positive hippie affirmation set to slightly warped Wii Sports menu music. It's not a million miles away from anything else here on the album, but just doesn't resonate for me in the same way as the others. On Power to You, there is a really interesting thing going on where it sounds at points like two different songs are playing at once almost. You have this really dark bass part with this then Prince Kiss happy funky guitar part over the top, and while this was definitely supposed to be disorientating, it just didn't work for me. With that being said, within this same song is an absolutely killer hook and chorus, so it's hard not to just forgive the whole thing. I certainly wouldn't take it off the record, it's just an observation. These are the only two kind of anomalous minor lowlights I can mention, but when it comes to positives off the instrumentals, the songs, the melodies, the production, I could just go on for hours. We can't get out of this review though without making mention to Brittany Howard's voice though. Throughout this record, just on every single track, the singer is not only charismatic, just as we come to expect, but utterly mesmerizing. Especially songs like To Be Still, where there is less instrumental distraction and the voice can be the true star. Just like, what a singer. This is another absolutely wonderful album from a truly special artist. It's an 8.9 from me. What do you think though? Have you heard this one? If you haven't, you must, and you've got to go and listen to it and then got to come back here and tell me how you feel about it. And while you're messing around in the comments in that section, messing about with the clicks and taps in that whole region of the screen, just press the subscribe button while you're at it. I'm sure it's kicking about down there somewhere. I think this has been great, don't you? So let's just see more of each other. Subscribe, share some thoughts, show some love, or just hold some abuse in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers, mate. Bye.